It's funny how life can change in an instant. One moment, you're celebrating one of the happiest days of your life, and the next, you're the villain in a story you never saw coming. That's what happened to me at my sister's wedding. I had been excited, thrilled even, for her big day. It was supposed to be one of the most beautiful moments for our family. My sister, Emma, had planned everything down to the smallest detail. As her older sister, I wanted to be there for her, to support her, to make her feel like the princess she deserved to be. But that day, everything went terribly wrong. I remember the moment clearly. It was during the reception. We were all having a great time, dancing, laughing, the music filling the room. I had just gone to check on Emma, making sure everything was perfect. I wasn't gone for more than a few minutes, but when I returned to the main hall, I was met with a scene I couldn't believe. There was a commotion at the back of the room. My mother was talking to the wedding planner, and Emma's best friend, Sarah, was standing nearby, looking around frantically. It didn't take long for me to realize what had happened. My mother, her face pale and eyes wide, turned to me, her voice shaky as she spoke. "Grace, where did you put the necklace?" she asked, her words cutting through the air. My heart dropped. "What are you talking about? I haven't touched the necklace." But before I could even process what was happening, Sarah piped up. "We saw you go into the room earlier. It's gone, and you were the last one near it." My head spun as the words hit me like a slap. How could they even think I would do something like that? The necklace wasn't just any piece of jewelry. It was a family heirloom, something passed down through generations. Emma had been wearing it, and it was supposed to be the highlight of her wedding look. It took all of my self-control not to shout at them, to defend myself right then and there. But I was in shock. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me, judging, whispering behind my back. The thought of being blamed for something I hadn't done, especially on such an important day for Emma, was suffocating. I tried to stay calm. "I didn't take it, I swear," I said, my voice trembling. But my words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Emma stood there, her face a mixture of confusion and disappointment. "Grace, why would you do this? Why would you steal from me on my wedding day?" Her voice broke, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. That look, so filled with betrayal, stung more than I care to admit. I wanted to scream, to shake her and tell her to listen, but I knew I couldn't. I had to prove my innocence. I had to show them that I wasn't the person they were making me out to be. But how? How could I convince them when the situation looked so damning? How could I get them to see that I would never do something like this? Especially not to my sister, the person I loved most. The rest of the night felt like a blur. The guests were now watching me with suspicion, and every step I took felt like it was under a magnifying glass. No matter how many times I denied it, no one was listening. I was the prime suspect, and everyone was turning their attention to me. I couldn't just stand there and let this ruin everything, especially for Emma. I knew I had to do something, and fast. I couldn't let my reputation be destroyed over a mistake I hadn't made. I needed to find the necklace and prove my innocence. But where do I even begin when everything's spinning out of control? The search for the truth, for the necklace, for the one thing that could clear my name, was just beginning. And I had no idea how deep the web of lies and misunderstandings would go. But I wasn't going to give up. Not on my sister's wedding and not on my own integrity. I would prove that I wasn't the thief. I just had to figure out how. I knew the only way to prove my innocence was to find the necklace, but the situation was more complicated than I'd ever imagined. The longer I stood there, the more the weight of the accusation sank in. I was standing in the middle of my sister's wedding, surrounded by family and friends, all whispering and looking at me like I had committed the worst crime imaginable. It wasn't just about the necklace anymore. It was about clearing my name and restoring the trust that had been shattered in one moment. I quickly excused myself from the conversation, needing some space to think. I couldn't breathe in the tension that hung in the air. I could feel the eyes of the guests following me, but I tried not to let it bother me. What was most important now was figuring out where the necklace had gone, who might have taken it, and how I could prove that I wasn't the one responsible. I slipped into a quiet corner of the venue, trying to gather my thoughts. My mind raced through everything that had happened that day. I had gone to check on Emma earlier, but I had only been in the room for a few minutes. I remembered seeing the necklace on her neck just before she went to the ceremony. And then, when I came back, the necklace was missing. But how could I have taken it? I barely had time to look at it, let alone steal it. My brain was flooded with questions, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let my sister's big day be ruined by something that wasn't even my fault. I glanced around the reception hall, my eyes landing on the wedding planner, Lisa. She was standing near the entrance talking to a group of guests. Lisa had been the one to help with all the logistics of the wedding, and I had seen her earlier helping Emma with some final touches. It hit me that if anyone knew anything about the necklace or had seen anything suspicious, it would be her. I walked over to her, trying to appear calm even though my heart was pounding in my chest. "Lisa," I said, my voice steady, "do you know if anyone else was in the bridal suite after I left? I need to figure out who might have taken the necklace." Lisa looked at me, her expression confused but sympathetic. "Grace, I don't know who would take it. I thought it was with Emma the whole time." "I swear I didn't do it," I said, my voice shaking. "But I need to find it. I need to clear my name before everyone starts believing I did this." "I believe you," Lisa said quietly, but she didn't seem sure of where to start. "I'll check with the staff. Maybe someone saw something. I'm sure we'll figure it out. Don't worry, Grace. You're not the only one concerned here." Her words gave me a little hope, but I knew we were running out of time. My sister was in a state of panic, and the last thing I wanted was to make the situation worse. But as much as I wanted to rush off and search for the necklace myself, I knew I had to be careful. I couldn't just go barging into rooms without a plan. There had to be a way to solve this that didn't involve causing more chaos. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. If I was going to prove my innocence, I had to stay calm and think logically. I needed a clear plan. "Thanks, Lisa. Please let me know if you find anything," I said, giving her a grateful but determined smile. I returned to the reception area and found my mother talking to a group of guests near the dance floor. She saw me approaching and immediately waved me over. I could see the concern in her eyes, but there was also something else, something I couldn't quite place. It was almost as if she was holding back something, unsure of what to say. "Grace, darling," she said, pulling me into a tight hug. "I'm so sorry about all this. I know you didn't do it, but everyone's so upset. Your sister is heartbroken." "I didn't take it, Mom," I said, my voice firm. "I don't know how the necklace disappeared, but I swear I didn't steal it." "I know, sweetheart," she replied, patting my back. "But your sister, she's just devastated. She's been crying all night. I know she's hurt, but she doesn't think clearly right now. She's too upset to see things for what they are." I pulled back and looked at my mom. "Where is Emma now?" She's in the bridal suite, still looking for it. But I'm afraid she's just going to blame you if she doesn't find it soon. I don't know what's going on, but you should go talk to her. Try to calm her down." I nodded, my heart heavy with guilt. I needed to fix this for Emma. I had to find that necklace before things got worse. As I made my way to the bridal suite, I took a moment to collect myself. I knew I wasn't the one who had taken it, but Emma didn't believe me, and that hurt more than anything. I couldn't just let her stay angry at me. I knocked softly on the door to the suite and heard Emma's voice from inside. "Go away, Grace. I don't want to talk to you." "Emma, please," I said, my voice gentle but full of urgency. "We need to talk. I didn't take the necklace, and I'm going to prove it to you." There was silence for a moment, and then the door opened slightly. Emma stood there, her face tear-streaked, her eyes red from crying. For a moment, we just stood there, looking at each other, both unsure of what to say next. "Emma," I began, stepping closer. "I know this is hard, but I swear, I didn't take it. You have to trust me." She looked at me, her gaze softening slightly. "I want to believe you, Grace, but the necklace is gone and you were the last one near it. How do I know you didn't take it?" "I didn't," I said, my voice filled with frustration. "But I'm going to find it, and I'll prove it to you. I won't stop until I do." And just like that, a small flicker of hope returned to Emma's eyes. She may not have believed me fully yet, but I could see that she was willing to listen. We were going to get to the bottom of this, together. The tension in the air was thick as I stood there, watching Emma's face, trying to gauge whether she was finally starting to believe me. She hadn't said anything yet, but the way she was looking at me made me think that maybe, just maybe, there was a small crack in the wall of doubt she had built around herself. It was the first step, and I was determined to take full advantage of it. "I know this is hard," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside me. "But we need to focus. We need to find that necklace before things spiral even more out of control." Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the situation was finally hitting her. "I just don't understand," she whispered. "Why would anyone steal it? It's supposed to be a symbol of our family. I can't believe something like this is happening on my wedding day." "I know, and I wish I could take the pain away. But blaming me won't help. We need to find out who really took it." I reached out to gently take her hand. "Let me help you. I'm not going to let this ruin your wedding." Her eyes flickered with a mix of hope and doubt, but she nodded slowly, allowing me to pull her towards the bed where we had set out her wedding dress and accessories earlier. "Where should we start?" she asked, her voice a little steadier now. "We start by thinking about the moments before the necklace went missing," I said. "You were wearing it when you went to the ceremony, right?" "Yes," she replied, her fingers brushing over the spot where the necklace had once rested. "I had it on, and I felt so beautiful. It was perfect, just like everything else today. But when I came back in here to change, it was gone." "Did anyone come in here while you were away? Maybe someone who could have taken it without you noticing?" She paused, thinking. "I don't think so. Sarah was with me right up until I went to the ceremony, but she stayed with the bridesmaids in the hall. The only person who came in was the photographer, but he was only here for a few minutes and didn't touch anything." I glanced over at the camera gear still scattered in the corner. I had seen the photographer earlier, but he'd been busy taking photos of other moments in the wedding. There was no way he would have had time to grab the necklace during his brief visit. "Okay, so that rules out the photographer," I said. "What about Sarah? She's been your best friend for years. Could she have taken it by accident, thinking she was helping you with something? Emma's expression faltered. She hesitated for a moment, then shook her head. No, Sarah would never do that. She's like a sister to me. If anything, she's the one person who would do everything in her power to make sure nothing went wrong. Her voice had a touch of uncertainty, but it was clear she didn't want to believe that Sarah was involved. I understood. After all, it wasn't easy to accuse someone close to you, especially at a time when emotions were already running high. I know this is hard to consider, but sometimes the people we trust the most can make mistakes. I'm not saying she's guilty, but we have to be thorough, I said gently. Emma's face tightened, but she finally nodded. You're right. I need to think clearly. At that moment, a knock on the door interrupted our conversation. I turned to see Lisa, the wedding planner, standing in the doorway with a slightly tense expression on her face. Grace, Emma, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought I should let you know that we've checked the security footage from the entrance. It doesn't show anyone suspicious, but there is a brief moment where we see someone passing by the bridal suite shortly before the necklace was reported missing. I felt a rush of hope. Who was it? Can you tell who it was? Lisa looked at her phone for a moment before answering. It's hard to make out, but it looks like one of the groomsmen. I can't be sure, but I think it's Ben. Ben. My mind raced. I knew who Ben was. He was one of the groom's childhood friends, but he wasn't someone I'd ever thought of as being involved in something like this. I glanced at Emma, who was now standing up, her eyes wide with disbelief. Ben? She whispered. Are you sure? I can't say for certain, Lisa replied, but it's worth checking into. I'll send you the footage. Emma turned to me, her face a mix of confusion and shock. I don't know what to think anymore. Ben? But why would he take it? We don't know that he did, I said, trying to stay calm. But it's the only lead we have. We need to find out if he was involved in any way or if he might have seen something that could help. Emma's hand shook as she clutched her dress. I don't know what's happening. I just want my wedding to be perfect. I placed my hand on hers. We'll get to the bottom of this. We'll find the truth, and I'll help you. You don't have to go through this alone. With renewed determination, we decided to watch the footage. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't let this go until I had the answers. I wasn't just clearing my name. I was fighting for the integrity of my sister's wedding and for the bond we shared. Emma's eyes softened with a new resolve. Thank you, Grace. I'm sorry for doubting you. Don't apologize. We're family, I replied, my voice filled with conviction. We'll figure this out together. As the footage played, my mind was racing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were getting closer to uncovering the truth. The necklace wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol of something much bigger, and I wasn't going to stop until I found it, no matter who it took me to. As the footage played on the small screen in front of us, the tension in the room was palpable. I could feel Emma's anxiety rising, her fingers tapping nervously on the edge of the bed. We both stared at the grainy video feed, waiting for something to jump out at us, some sign that would finally answer the question we had been asking for hours. Who took the necklace? The footage was a bit blurry, as most security camera footage tends to be, but there was no mistaking the person moving through the hall. I squinted at the screen, trying to make out the figure in the darkened hallway. The person appeared to be walking quickly, glancing around to make sure no one was looking. And then they paused in front of the bridal suite. That's him, Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. That's Ben. I could see her body tense as she watched the footage. The figure on the screen was definitely tall, with broad shoulders. It wasn't conclusive yet, but the way he was acting seemed suspicious. He wasn't lingering or admiring the decorations. He was moving quickly and seemed intent on getting somewhere. "Do you think he took it?" I asked quietly, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. Emma didn't respond immediately. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, watching the figure intently. I could tell she was processing everything, trying to make sense of it. Finally, she spoke. "I don't know what to think. Why would he take the necklace? He was one of the groomsmen. He's been in our family for years." I could see the conflict on her face. She didn't want to believe that someone so close to their family would do something like this. But the evidence was starting to add up. The last person to be near the bridal suite before the necklace went missing was Ben. But there was still so much we didn't know. What was he doing there? Was he involved in the disappearance? Or was there another explanation? "Let's find out," I said, my voice more determined now. "We need to confront him. If he's innocent, he'll clear it up. If not, well, we'll figure that out." Emma nodded reluctantly. "I guess we don't have a choice, but I don't want to cause trouble. It's my wedding, Grace. I don't want any drama." "I know," I said, "but we have to do this. It's not about drama, it's about finding the truth." We stood up, and I could see the hesitation in Emma's steps. She wasn't sure how to proceed, how to handle what was clearly a delicate situation. I understood completely. Confronting someone close to you, especially in a time as important as this, was never easy. But I also knew that if we didn't act now, the mystery would only continue to ruin the day. We left the bridal suite and walked towards the area where the groomsmen had been gathering earlier. As we approached, I spotted Ben sitting by himself, nursing a drink. He looked relaxed, almost too relaxed considering the tension in the air. His eyes met mine as we approached, and he gave a half smile. "Hey, Grace." "Emma," Ben greeted us, clearly not expecting what was coming. "Ben, can we talk to you for a minute?" I asked, my voice steady but firm. His smile faltered slightly. "Of course, what's going on?" I glanced at Emma, silently giving her the option to speak. She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "We've been looking into the missing necklace. I saw some security footage, and we believe you might have seen something. Can you tell us what happened?" His face immediately tightened, and I saw a flash of unease in his eyes. He put his drink down, standing up slowly. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't take anything." Emma crossed her arms, her voice soft but insistent. "Then why were you near the bridal suite right before the necklace went missing? The security footage shows you walking past there. What were you doing?" Ben's expression changed, his eyes darting to the floor for a moment before he looked back up at us. "I wasn't taking anything, okay? He stopped, his voice trailing off as if unsure of what to say next. I stepped forward, trying to keep my voice calm. "Ben, we're not accusing you of anything yet, but this is important. The necklace is a family heirloom, and we can't just let this slide. We need to know the truth." There was a long pause as Ben hesitated, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. I could tell he was fighting with himself, deciding whether to tell the truth or stick to his story. Finally, he exhaled, his shoulders slumping in defeat. All right," he said quietly. "I didn't take the necklace, but I did see something. When I walked past the suite, I saw Sarah in there." My heart skipped a beat. Sarah? Emma's best friend? She had been in the bridal suite earlier, but Emma had been adamant that she would never take it. "Sarah?" Emma repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "What was she doing in there?" Ben looked uncomfortable, his eyes shifting nervously. I don't know, but when I saw her, she was looking around as if she was checking to see if anyone was coming. It was weird. And when I left, she was still in there. I could see Emma's face drain of color as the realization hit her. Sarah, she was in the room when it went missing? Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Ben sighed, rubbing his temples. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was just passing through and I didn't want to get involved. But now, with everything that's happening, I thought you should know. I turned to Emma, who was visibly shaken. This doesn't prove anything yet, but it's a lead. We need to talk to Sarah. We need to find out what happened. Emma nodded, her hands shaking slightly. I don't know who to trust anymore. Don't worry, I said, trying to reassure her. We'll get to the bottom of this. I promise. As we walked away from Ben, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. Sarah was now the key to unraveling the mystery, and I had a feeling that confronting her would be even harder than confronting Ben. But there was no turning back now. The truth was within reach, and I was going to make sure Emma got the answers she deserved. The next step was inevitable. We couldn't let the possibility that Sarah had something to do with the missing necklace slip by. The suspicion hung in the air like a heavy cloud, and I knew it was only a matter of time before we confronted her. But how would she react? Was she really involved? Or was there something else going on that we hadn't seen yet? The thought of confronting one of Emma's closest friends made my stomach churn. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was starting to add up. We found Sarah in the lounge, chatting with a few other guests. As soon as I walked into the room, her eyes locked onto mine, and I could see the faintest flicker of unease in her gaze. It wasn't enough to make her look guilty, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She noticed Emma and me approaching, and a smile tugged at her lips, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. Hey, you two. How's everything going? Sarah asked, her voice upbeat, too upbeat for the situation at hand. I gave a tight smile in return, trying to remain calm. Sarah, we need to talk to you, I said, my voice steady, but there was no mistaking the underlying urgency. Her smile faltered just for a second, but she quickly recovered. Sure, what's up? Emma looked at me, and I nodded, signaling her to take the lead. After everything that had happened, this was her moment to ask the questions she had been holding inside. Sarah, Emma began, her voice shaking just a little. We've been looking into the missing necklace, and we've heard that you were in the bridal suite before it disappeared. Can you tell us what you were doing in there? Sarah's expression changed instantly, a flash of panic crossing her face before it was masked by a forced calmness. What? I wasn't in the suite. I was helping the bridesmaids get ready, and then I came down to the reception. Are you sure you saw me? Ben saw you, I interjected, my voice firm. He was passing by, and he saw you in the room, looking around. So tell us, Sarah, what were you doing in there? The air in the room seemed to thicken as Sarah shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting from Emma to me. She swallowed hard before speaking again. I wasn't snooping around, Sarah said quickly, trying to appear convincing. I just went in to check on Emma. She was upset, and I thought maybe she needed a break before the ceremony. But that's all. I didn't take anything. Her words seemed rehearsed, too clean, too fast. The explanation didn't make sense. If she was just checking on Emma, why had she been looking around as Ben had described? Something didn't add up. Why didn't you mention this before, Sarah? Emma's voice had hardened. She was no longer the vulnerable bride she had been earlier. She was now determined to get to the truth. "Why didn't you tell me you were in there?" "I," Sarah began, but her words faltered. "I didn't think it was important. It was a private moment. I didn't want to make it awkward." A silence hung between us. I could see the conflict on Emma's face. She didn't want to believe that Sarah, her best friend, could be involved in something so serious. But the pieces were starting to fall into place. Emma had been the one wearing the necklace, and Sarah had been in the room moments before it went missing. Was it possible that Sarah had taken it? I could tell Emma was struggling with the idea, but I couldn't let her hold back. "Sarah, please. This is important. The necklace is gone, and we need to figure out who took it." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't take it. I swear. Maybe it's just lost. Maybe one of the other guests moved it." It was a weak excuse, and I could see that Emma wasn't convinced. The trust between them was fraying, and it hurt me to watch it unfold. But I knew we couldn't back down now. "I think you should come with us," I said, trying to keep the situation calm but firm. "We need to get this straightened out, and we can't do that if we don't all talk honestly." Sarah hesitated. I could see her weighing her options, but after a long pause, she finally nodded. "Fine," she said quietly. "But I told you everything I know. I didn't take it." Emma and I exchanged glances. Neither of us knew what was going to happen next, but we couldn't stop now. We had come this far, and I wasn't going to let anyone, including Sarah, get away with covering up the truth. I could see how badly Emma wanted to trust Sarah, but this was bigger than friendship. This was about getting justice, about finding the truth. We led Sarah to a quiet room, away from the reception. The atmosphere felt more intense now that we were alone with her. The stakes had never been higher. Emma's wedding day was slipping away, and the one thing she had wanted more than anything, the perfect day, was marred by this mystery. We had to get to the bottom of it, no matter the cost. "Sarah," I said softly but firmly, "we just want to know the truth. No more lies. If you have the necklace, just tell us. You won't be in trouble. But if we find out later that you're lying, it's going to be much worse." Her eyes flickered nervously, and I could see the tension in her shoulders. She opened her mouth to speak, but just then, there was a soft knock on the door. We all turned, startled, and the door creaked open. It was one of the staff members holding something in his hand. He stepped inside, his face a mixture of relief and confusion. Excuse me," he said, looking directly at us. "I think I found the necklace. It was in the back storage room, hidden behind some boxes." We all stared at him for a moment, the room falling silent. The shock of the news hit harder than I expected. The necklace wasn't stolen after all. It had been misplaced. "Thank God," Emma whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. But even though the mystery was solved, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. Was Sarah truly innocent? Why had she been so defensive? I didn't know, but for now, the mystery was over. Emma turned to Sarah. "I'm glad we found it, but we need to talk later. I'm not sure what happened, but you need to be honest with me next time." Sarah nodded, looking ashamed. "I'm sorry, Emma. I didn't mean to cause trouble." As I stood there, watching Emma and Sarah try to rebuild their fragile trust, I couldn't help but feel a bit of relief myself. The day wasn't perfect, but at least we had answers. However, one thing was clear. I would never let anyone else's lies or mistakes destroy what mattered most. The truth always finds its way to the surface. The relief from finding the necklace should have been enough to let the wedding continue without another hitch. I had helped Emma breathe a sigh of relief, the tension lifting slightly from her shoulders. For a moment, everything felt like it was going to be okay, and I almost let myself believe that it would be. But deep down, I knew that this wasn't truly over. The necklace had been found, yes, but the unease that had settled between Emma and Sarah was still there, unresolved. It wasn't just about the jewelry anymore. It was about trust, betrayal, and the damage done. As the night went on, I watched them both from across the room. Emma, trying to force a smile, pushing past the tension as she mingled with guests, hoping to salvage the last of her perfect day. And Sarah, sitting at the bar, avoiding eye contact with anyone, lost in her own thoughts. She looked regretful, but that regret didn't seem to extend far enough to include a true apology. I could tell Emma was still hurt, but she wasn't ready to confront Sarah just yet. She wasn't ready to admit that the friendship they'd shared might never be the same. I couldn't stand it any longer. The air between them was thick, and it was clear they both needed closure. I wasn't about to let Emma's big day be overshadowed by unresolved issues. I walked over to Sarah, who was stirring her drink absent-mindedly, her eyes staring into the glass. "Sarah," I said, my voice calm but firm, "we need to talk." She looked up, her eyes weary, like she'd been expecting this moment but wasn't sure how to handle it. She didn't say anything immediately, but just nodded, setting her drink down. "I know you didn't take the necklace," I continued, my tone softer now. "But there's something going on here that we need to address. Emma's been hurt, and you can't just sweep this under the rug." Sarah shifted in her seat, looking uncomfortable, but she didn't look away. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't know how to deal with the situation. I panicked." I frowned. "Panicked about what?" "About the pressure," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been feeling like I'm always in Emma's shadow. She's got everything: perfect life, perfect wedding, perfect fiancé. And I'm just here. It's been hard for me to watch her, you know? I love her, but I felt so invisible." I blinked, shocked by her confession. "Sarah, this isn't about you being invisible. Emma is your best friend. She needs you, especially now. But trying to undermine her wedding or hide things from her, that's not how you show love." She swallowed hard, her eyes filling with regret. "I know. I should have just been honest with her. I never wanted to hurt her or take anything from her, especially not something so important. But everything just spiraled, and I couldn't think straight. When I saw the necklace missing, I freaked out. I didn't know what to do, so I tried to cover it up." I could hear the sincerity in her voice, and a small part of me understood. The jealousy, the insecurity. It wasn't something she had shown before, but in the chaos of Emma's wedding, it all seemed to come to a head. It wasn't an excuse for what had happened, but it was the root of the problem, and it had to be addressed. "Sarah," I said, trying to find the right words, "you've been Emma's friend for so long. You've shared so much. If there's any time to show her you care, it's now. This wedding is a celebration of their love, and right now, Emma just wants to forget everything else and enjoy her day. She needs you by her side, not distant or hiding away from her." Sarah's face softened, and she nodded slowly, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You're right. I've been selfish, and I'm so sorry. I just didn't know how to be happy for her when I was feeling so small." I took a deep breath and put a hand on her shoulder. "You need to apologize to her, Sarah. It won't be easy, but it's the only way to heal this." She looked up at me, her eyes searching for reassurance. "Do you think she'll forgive me?" "I think she'll want to. I replied honestly. But you have to be sincere. You need to show her that you understand what you did and that you're sorry for letting it all get to this point. We stood in silence for a moment, both of us processing everything that had been said. I could see that Sarah was fighting her own internal battle, but I could also see the realization that her actions had hurt someone she truly cared about. "I'll talk to her," Sarah said finally, her voice firm. "I won't let this ruin our friendship. I know I messed up, but I'll fix it. I'll do whatever it takes." "That's all you can do," I said, giving her a small smile. "Now go talk to Emma. She deserves the truth." As Sarah walked toward Emma, my heart raced with anticipation. This wasn't just about the necklace anymore. It was about healing, about restoring the bond that had been fractured. I knew it wasn't going to be an easy conversation, but I also knew it was necessary. I watched as Sarah approached Emma, who was standing near the dance floor, speaking with a few guests. Sarah paused for a moment, gathering her courage, before walking up to her and pulling her aside. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see the look of pain on Emma's face, the way Sarah seemed to be explaining herself. I stood back, giving them the space they needed. This was their moment to talk, to heal, to rebuild what had been broken. I could only hope that Emma would be able to see the sincerity in Sarah's apology, and that their friendship would survive this moment. As the night went on, I noticed Emma and Sarah sitting together, talking quietly. The tension between them seemed to ease, and though I knew there would be more work to do to rebuild their trust fully, it was a start. And in that moment, I realized something important. Healing wasn't about fixing everything instantly. It was about taking the first step. And they had just taken that step together. I couldn't help but smile to myself. The wedding wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. The rest of the evening passed with a sense of peace I hadn't thought possible only hours before. Emma and Sarah were no longer at odds. The tension that had plagued the wedding had finally started to dissipate, replaced by laughter and quiet, heartfelt conversations. As the night wore on, it became clear that their friendship, though shaken, was not beyond repair. I watched as the two of them sat together at a corner table, whispering and smiling, their bond slowly mending with every word exchanged. Emma's face, once filled with sadness and uncertainty, now glowed with the familiar warmth that had always defined her. Sarah, too, seemed more at ease, her guilt replaced by the relief of finally confronting the truth. It wasn't perfect, of course. There were still cracks to heal, wounds to tend to. But the hardest part was over. The honesty, the apology, the willingness to listen. It was all there, and that's what mattered most. As the night drew to a close, Emma pulled me aside, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Grace, I don't even know how to thank you. You were the one who pushed me to see the truth. I don't think I could have handled all of this without you." I smiled, a soft, knowing smile. "You don't have to thank me, Emma. I did what any sister would do, but you did the hard work. You listened, you forgave, and you moved forward. That's something to be proud of." She pulled me into a hug, and in that moment, I felt the weight of everything that had happened. The confusion, the hurt, the misunderstandings start to lift. It was as if a chapter of our lives was closing and a new one was beginning, one that would be built on trust and truth. As the final guests began to leave and the last of the decorations were being taken down, I stood on the balcony looking out at the city lights, reflecting on the events of the day. The wedding, despite everything, had ended up being a success. Not because everything had gone according to plan, but because we had faced the truth, and in doing so, we had allowed ourselves the chance to heal. In that moment, I realized how much we all needed each other. Life wasn't about avoiding conflict, about running from hard truths. It was about facing those truths head on, no matter how uncomfortable, and using them to grow stronger. The bonds we form with people, whether they're family or friends, are the most important thing we have. And if those bonds are broken, they can be mended with honesty, with humility, and with love. As I left the wedding venue with Emma and Sarah by my side, I couldn't help but feel proud of what we had all accomplished. The necklace had been found, the truth had come out, and the relationships that mattered most were being rebuilt, stronger than ever. It wasn't the wedding anyone had expected, but it was the one that we needed. Lesson to take away. Sometimes life throws obstacles in our path, and we're faced with difficult situations that test our relationships. But it's in those moments that we have the opportunity to grow, to forgive, and to move forward. Trust, honesty, and communication are the keys to any strong bond. And when we choose to face the truth, we allow ourselves the chance to heal and build something even stronger than before. Subscribe to the channel for more stories, lessons, and emotional journeys that show how life's toughest challenges can lead to the most profound growth. Don't miss the next part of this journey. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss a moment. Lesson to take away. Life is full of unexpected twists, but with honesty and a willingness to face the truth, even the hardest moments can become opportunities for healing. Don't shy away from confrontation. Sometimes it's the only way to restore what's been broken.